So a lot of thoughts about the game and the team. And first of all, and I've told this story a few times today. A lot of people have seen me today and have said, "What happened, Frank? What happened? What happened?" Well, what happened is the NFL. What happened is the 49ers, who nobody debates are the best team in football, lost 3 games in a row. The Eagles, who were 10-1 coming off a Super Bowl appearance, have just gotten blown out 2 weeks in a row. The Bengals started 4-5. What happened is the NFL does this. A team that won 7 out of 8 games, which is very unusual, hit a wall and has lost 2 very close games. That's what happened. So to Hayes' point a minute ago, don't panic too much. You're 8-5. You're in first place. You won 7 out of 8. Now you've lost 2 close games. And both of those losses happened. You played both those games without Christian Kirk. One because he played one play. One he didn't play at all. You've got to overcome some injuries. You're also down to your 4th. It sounds like I'm making excuses. I'm going to get to a point here. You're down to your 4th left tackle. Nobody's any good at left tackle 4.
No one's good at left tackle 2.
Right,
normally.
but they're really not good at left tackle 4. Cam Robinson gets hurt. So Walker Little gets hurt. Ezra Cleveland bounces out there and gets hurt. Blake Hance had to play. Blake Hance did fine given he's playing against one of the best players in football, in Myles Garrett. That's part of it. I think the defensive line's hurt. Foley Fatukasi was down and frankly hadn't played well when he was up. He's injured a little bit. Devon Hamilton isn't himself yet. He's trying. He's not back there yet. They don't have Tyson Campbell. Trey Herndon, who was having a really good year as a nickel, is out. So I think part of it, that's why the NFL is what it is, and that's why you lose the games you lose, for those reasons. So I think one thing to happen is the NFL. Having said that, there are some concerns. I think they've lost their level of physicality. I think the one thing they're not is they're not physical. They're trying. They're not trying to play soft, but they've lost their level of physicality. When Jake Browning and 74-year-old Joe Flacco have that much time to throw, then you're not physical. Josh Allen's doing all he can, but that's about it. The Trayvon Walker does not have many numbers. He's playing okay at times. The other guys, but when Jake Browning and Joe Flacco have that kind of time to throw, that's a concern. The other thing is I think teams are running on that. I just think they're not very physical. And the Jags, when the other guy's running and you're not, when the other guy's got a lot of time to throw and your guy doesn't, that means you're not physical. And I think finding physicality, I think there's 2 gigantic things. Number one is they've got to refine their physicality. By the way, I don't know how you do that. It's not like you lift more weights on Tuesday than you did last week. It doesn't work like that. But I think they somehow, some way, got to find more physicality. I think that's the thing, and maybe getting guys healthy, you got to play more physically. You just have to play more physically. The second thing is the unforced errors have to stop. The Calvin Ridley running the wrong route and Trevor, because of throwing it right to the defensive guy, Trevor throwing a go route to Zay Jones and Zay breaking it off into a little bit of a post, that's got to change. So both those things have to change. The unforced errors, the breakdowns in coverage yesterday, the times you looked up and a guy was running wide open when nobody was within 20 yards, those are unforced. A blown coverage is unforced. A broken route is unforced. You got to take better care of the ball. The fumble by Parker Washington hurt, but that's a physical mistake. I think physicality somehow got to be more physical, and somehow you got to eliminate the mistake. If you do that, the other pieces are still there. You're still 8-5 in the first place. You still have a really good quarterback. You're losing a really important receiver. You still have a really good receiver in Evan Ingram and your move tight end. And with Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones and Jamal Agnew's about to come back, there's worse receiving cores than that one. I think Travis Etienne's a good running back. I think he's playing a little bit hurt. But if he had some holes, I thought he had more of a burst yesterday than he's had in a while. I think your linebackers are good, but for Devin Lloyd and Foye Oluokun to play well, that line's got to keep guards and centers off them. You got to do that. Your job is to keep those guys off your linebacker, particularly in running plays. So Hayes, physicality and unforced errors, in my opinion, are the key to these 2 losses.
Yeah, and the problem is the physicality aspect they can't fix on offense. I just think that they're a finesse soft team. Not to say obviously these guys are all incredibly tough. They're in the NFL, but compared to most offensive lines, they just don't generate any push, and that's an interior thing. I mean, look, your center and right guard are the guys that you went to camp with. So They haven't played particularly well. And now, at right tackle, you've got a rookie, and I think he's finding his form. Left tackle, left guard has been, a turnstile because of attrition, suspensions, everything really from the first day. But I don't think that's going to get much better. So they're going to have to work around that. How do they do that? The operationally, they've got to be better than what they are, and it's really disappointing to hear Doug Peterson say that these are issues they're seeing in practice. It's not like they're practicing cleanly, and then they're getting to the games and things are popping up. As alarming as that would be, it would at least be, somewhat. Well, we're doing it right Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Can we, somehow get that to parlay itself Sunday? Well, no, because they're making the same mistakes during the week. So that's a real problem. They obviously made a bet on Calvin Ridley, and that bet is not paying off right now. Now, that doesn't mean Calvin Ridley won't have a sensational close, but it's unfair to Trevor Lawrence. He's out there playing basically on one ankle, and you can't, and he's obviously has to worry about, will the protection hold up? The last thing he needs to be thinking about is my receiver running where he needs to be running? And Calvin Ridley has his head down on the interception. It was one of the most inexplicable things I've seen a receiver do this season in the NFL. I mean, he's not even remotely thinking the ball's coming his way. And if you score there, it's a tie game, and you've got the momentum. Instead, you give it right back to Cleveland. And, it's just, Doug's got to emphasize, and he will, that, look, guys, this is it. There's a lot of teams out there right now that would love to be at 8-5 and leading their division. You're going to make the tournament. I mean, we got to hit the gas now, but this is it. We have 4 games left, and then the tournament begins. So anything you're holding back, let it go, because we have to be full throttle now from here until the end of this thing. And it's got to start now. It's got to start Sunday night against the Ravens. And I think operationally they can be better. Calvin Ridley can be better. And if he locks in more, then I have confidence he can be productive. But it's just, you can't have Trevor Lawrence wondering where is he going to be this deep into the season. It's inexcusable. Zay Jones, I'm willing to give more of the benefit of the doubt to, because I think with Zay, it's more, he's probably not close to 100%, but he's trying to play through it. And in losing that little half a step in the explosion, you're seeing an above average player look average because he's not 100%. Because Zay Jones isn't a star, but he's a above average receiver in this league. And, and then defensively, I think that's all about health. If they can get Tyson Campbell, Trey Herndon, who hopefully will clear protocol and be back this week. You hope Andre Cisco isn't out too long. If Devon Hamilton, Fadakasi can round back into form, to me that's health. If that happens defensively, I think they can be okay. Stefanski just destroyed Mike Caldwell yesterday schematically. I mean, that's what that was. That was a young defensive coordinator getting just dissected by a really good offensive coach. Because again, it came down to 3 or 4 plays, but Cleveland won all of those plays because they fooled the Jaguars. And I think in part, it was a coach fooling another coach. And so, again, there are flaws, but there are flaws everywhere in this league. And I think now it's just up to which team that's in position, which team is going to find the higher level. And for the Jaguars, I don't think that's going to be physically, because I don't know that that's there. But from a execution standpoint, and from a schematic standpoint, and from an awareness standpoint, that is all in their control. And that is where they've got to go seize the moment, win this division, hope to get the best seed you can, and then get hot in the tournament.
You mentioned one name, Frank, and Jamal Agnew. I think they are missing him desperately because he's able to spark the team. He's an electric returner. Parker Washington's doing his very best, but he's obviously not nearly as seasoned as Jamal. And so those moments when the game's momentum can turn, Jamal's not there to be able to help the team. And obviously the Cleveland punter was really good too. But I think Jamal Agnew coming back will be a tremendous help. But yeah, I think if you look at it big picture, they missed on key pieces on the offensive line, and they missed on the pass rush, which we focused way more on pass rush all offseason. We probably needed to focus more on the offensive line. But pass rush isn't where it needs to be. That's the bottom line. And the offensive line isn't playing well enough at all.
The point about Agnew's a good one because they're not an explosive team, but he's an explosive player. And even if he, in the course of a game, hey, Jamal Agnew's probably going to touch it. Let's take kickoffs out because all kickoffs seem to be touchbacks now, so maybe
Right.
one or two. So let's say there's an average game, 4 punt returns, maybe 2 kick returns, or maybe one. Let's say one that's not a touchback. That's 5. A couple gadget plays, 7, 8 times a game, 9 maybe. A standard game for Jamal Agnew.
I would say
8,
so.
Yeah,
I mean, I think as a receiver, he's
Yeah.
still very
Yeah.
much a work in
So,
progress.
handful
But as a
play.
punt returner,
Right. But
he's
they-
a game breaker.
And they're gonna run some jet sweeps when he's back. They're gonna run some screens. So let's say 7 or 8 touches a game, give or take. Well, to Lauren's point, 1 or 2 of those can be a house call, or to your point about him a punt returner, even if it's not, if it's a 35-yard return, it changes the game. And
And
today's
your offense is already in a better rhythm just because of where they're starting.
yeah, so I think that's part of it. So we'll see. Again, the NFL, you're in first place with 4 games. There are worse places to be than first place with 4 games to play, and that's where you are. You're in first place, and I think of your 4 games, only the Ravens game seems terribly difficult to me. Doesn't mean I won't win it, but it seems terribly difficult. Now the Bucs are playing better. They're in first place, even though it's a really bad division. But the Bucs are playing better, and the Titans aren't rolling over. If that's an important game, no matter what they have, they would love to spoil the world for Jacksonville. So that game's never going to be easy. But of the 4 remaining games, the only one that, to me, in terms of the talent of the opponent, that looks terribly difficult is the Ravens. So we'll see. We'll talk more about that coming up. To your point earlier, Lauren, Trevor's healthy. It looks like he's going to be healthy. I think ETN is healthy. They're going to get Jamal Agnew back at some point. Other than Christian Kirk and Cam, they're going to be healthy sooner rather than later, and that's an important thing. And look, you got everything. They've always been good. They're better when their back's against it a little bit. They're better when they're doubted. Well, against Cincinnati, everybody thought they were going to win. Nobody thought they could lose. Against Cleveland, more people picked them to lose than win, but people weren't going to be shocked if they won. Nationally, everyone's going to pick them to lose Sunday. So they're the team because they're reeling and the Ravens are playing well. Everybody's going to pick them to lose Sunday. So if ever you could go find that magic that comes from having that chip on your shoulder, this game will set up well for that. So we'll talk about it. Take a break. When we come back, I'll tell you about the beer bottle gate. That and a whole lot more. Stay with us.